Have you ever heard a single that changed everything? That's exactly what happened to Daniel. It was a quiet, ordinary night. The kind of night where nothing special is supposed to happen. Daniel sat on the edge of a small bed, gently pulling a blanket over his 6-year-old daughter, Lily. Her tiny fingers clutched her stuffed bunny as her eyes slowly closed. "Good night, princess," he whispered softly. "Good night, Daddy," she murmured. Already half asleep, Daniel smiled. Moments like these, they were everything to him. Being a single father wasn't easy. It meant long days, sleepless nights, and carrying a kind of silence that no one really talks about. But for Lily, he did it all every single day. He turned off the lamp, leaving only a soft glow from the hallway light. The house fell into a peaceful silence until help. The sound shattered the night. Daniel froze. First, he thought maybe he imagined it. But then it came again. Louder. Desperate. "Help me." His heart started pounding. That wasn't just a random noise. That was fear, real fear. Without wasting a second, Daniel rushed to the door, grabbing his keys out of habit, but he didn't even lock it behind him. His only thought was simple. Someone needs help. The voice was coming from next door. The new neighbor. He had seen her only once before, briefly, from a distance. She had just moved in a few days ago, quiet, kept to herself. He didn't even know her name. But right now, none of that mattered. Daniel reached her door and knocked hard. "Hey, are you okay?" No answer. Just a faint sound from inside. He tried the handle. Unlocked. He pushed the door open slowly. "Hello?" The apartment was dimly lit. Boxes were scattered everywhere, like someone had just started unpacking and never finished. Then he saw her, on the floor, near the couch. She was sitting awkwardly, one hand gripping her ankle, her face pale with pain. "Eyes lift," she whispered, her voice shaking. Daniel rushed over immediately. Hey, it's okay. Don't move too much." Up close, he could see the pain in her eyes, but also something else. Fear, the kind of fear that comes from being completely alone. "I didn't know who to call," she added quietly. Daniel softened instantly. "You don't have to worry anymore," he said gently. "I'm here." Carefully, he helped her up, supporting her weight as she winced. "Easy. I've got you." He guided her to the couch, making sure she was comfortable before stepping back for a second. "Does it hurt a lot?" She nodded. "Yeah, I think I twisted it badly." Daniel looked around quickly, spotting a small first aid kit half open on one of the boxes. "Good. At least you have this." He grabbed it and knelt in front of her again. "I'm Daniel, by the way," he said while opening the kit. A small pause. "Emily," she replied softly, and just like that. Strangers had names. As he carefully wrapped her ankle, his movements were calm, steady, practiced in a way that came from years of taking care of someone else. "You're good at this," Emily said, watching him. Daniel gave a small smile. "Single dad training." She looked at him, surprised. "You have a kid?" "Yeah, Lily. She's 6 something. In Emily's expression changed, a softness. "Lucky girl," she whispered. Daniel didn't respond right away. He just focused on tying the bandage properly, but deep down, those words meant more than she probably realized. A moment passed in quiet. Not awkward. Just calm. Then, "Daddy?" A small voice came from the doorway. Daniel turned. Lily stood there, rubbing her eyes, her hair messy from sleep. "Hey, sweetheart, what are you doing up?" "I heard shouting," she said, looking a little scared. Daniel walked over and gently knelt in front of her. "It's okay. Everything's okay." He pointed toward the couch. "This is our neighbor. She got hurt, so I'm helping her." Lily looked at Emily for a moment, then gave a small, shy wave. "Hi." Emily smiled, despite the pain. "Hi, Lily." And in that simple moment, something shifted. The tension in the room softened. The fear faded. It didn't feel like strangers anymore. It felt human. Real. Daniel stood up again and looked back at Emily. "You're going to be okay." But you should probably rest it for a few days. She nodded. Thank you. Really? I don't know what I would have done if you didn't come. Daniel shrugged lightly. You would have figured it out. But they both knew. That wasn't entirely true. As he turned to leave, Lily holding his hand, Emily spoke again. Daniel. He looked back. Yeah? She hesitated, just for a second, then said softly, I'm glad it was you. And for some reason, that stayed with him. Long after he walked back into his own house. Long after Lily fell asleep again. Long after the night went quiet, because sometimes life doesn't change with big dramatic moments. Sometimes it changes with a single cry for help, and the person who chooses to answer it. If you felt this story, don't just scroll away. Hit like if you believe kindness still matters. Drop a comment, what would you have done in Daniel's place? And don't forget to subscribe for more emotional, real-life love stories that touch your heart. Have you ever met someone by accident and somehow they start feeling important? More important than they should. That's exactly where things began to change. For Daniel, the next morning didn't feel normal. Daniel stood in his small kitchen, staring at 2 cups of coffee. One for him. And one he didn't plan to make. Or maybe he did. He let out a quiet breath, shaking his head slightly. What am I doing? He muttered under his breath. But deep down, he already knew. He wasn't just thinking about last night. He was thinking about her, Emily. The way her voice trembled, the way she tried to stay strong, even while in pain. And that one sentence, I'm glad it was you, for some reason, it didn't leave his mind. Not even for a second. Daniel picked up the tray toast, some fruit, and the extra cup of coffee before he could change his mind. He walked out, standing in front of her door. He hesitated for just a second, then knocked. A soft sound came from inside. Footsteps. Slow ones. The door opened. Emily stood there, leaning slightly against the frame, her hair loosely tied, her face natural. No makeup, but somehow even more beautiful. Oh, she said, surprised. Hi. Daniel lifted the tray a little, almost awkwardly. Breakfast delivery. For a second, she just looked at him, then she smiled, a real smile. The kind that reaches the eyes. You didn't have to do that. I know, he said. I wanted to. There was a small pause. Not uncomfortable. Just something unspoken. Then she stepped aside. Come in. The apartment looked different in the daylight. Sunlight poured through the windows, touching everything, the boxes, the furniture, the scattered pieces of her life waiting to be arranged. But what caught Daniel's attention the most were the paintings, leaning against the walls, some unfinished, some breathtaking. You made these? He asked, genuinely surprised. Emily glanced at them, almost shy. Yeah. Well, I tried to. Daniel stepped closer, studying one of them. It was soft, emotional, almost like it had a story hidden inside it. You're not trying, he said quietly. You're already good. Emily looked at him, and for a moment, she didn't know what to say, because it didn't feel like a compliment. It felt real. They sat down together, the tray between them, simple breakfast, but somehow, it didn't feel simple. So, she said, wrapping her hands around the warm coffee cup, single dad, huh? Daniel nodded. Yeah, it's just me and Lily. Where's her mom? Emily asked gently. The question wasn't careless. It was careful, respectful. Daniel's expression shifted slightly, not closed off, just heavier. She passed away a few years ago. Emily's eyes softened immediately. I'm sorry. Daniel gave a small nod. It's okay. It's been a while. But even as he said it, you could tell some things don't really fade. They just settle deeper. Emily didn't push further. She understood that silence sometimes says more than questions ever could. Instead, she smiled softly. She's lucky to have you. Daniel looked at her. Something in his chest tightened slightly. Sometimes I feel like I'm the lucky one. They both smiled, and just like that the conversation shifted. Lighter, easier. They talked about random things. Her move to the city, his daily routine, Lily's funny habits. And with every passing minute, something invisible started forming between them. Not rushed, not forced, just natural. Later that afternoon, Daniel returned home, but his mind stayed next door. He found himself checking the time more than usual, listening for any sound, any excuse, until finally a small knock came at his door. He opened it. Emily stood there, carefully balanced, still slightly limping. "Hey," she said. "I hope I'm not bothering you." Daniel shook his head quickly. "No, not at all." She held up a small container. "I made lunch. Thought I'd say thank you properly." Daniel smiled. "You didn't have to do that." She raised an eyebrow slightly. "Didn't you say the same thing this morning?" He laughed. "Okay, fair." They stood there for a second. Then Lily's voice echoed from inside. "Daddy." "Who is it?" Emily peeked inside, curious. Daniel stepped aside. "Come in." Lily ran toward the door, then stopped when she saw Emily. Her eyes lit up. "It's you." Emily smiled warmly. "It's me." Within minutes, the space changed. Lily started talking. Non-stop. Showing her drawings, her toys, even her favorite cartoon. Emily listened. Really listened. And Daniel noticed something. Something he hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Watching them together. It didn't feel strange. It didn't feel new. It felt right. That evening, they all sat together for dinner. Simple food, soft laughter, and in between it all glances, small ones, quiet ones, the kind that say more than words ever could. At one point, Lily asked, "Are you gonna come again tomorrow?" Emily looked at Daniel, just for a second, then back at Lily. "If your dad lets me." Lily turned dramatically. "Daddy?" Daniel smiled. "I think that can be arranged." Everyone laughed, but beneath that laughter, something deeper was growing. Later that night, Daniel walked Emily to the door. "Thank you for today," she said softly. "You don't have to thank me." "I do." She paused, then added, "It's been a long time since something felt this easy." Daniel looked at her, his voice quieter now. "Yeah, I get that." There was a moment, a real one, where neither of them moved, didn't speak, just stayed, because both of them felt it. That pull, that quiet connection that doesn't need explaining, but also that fear, because when something feels real, it also feels risky. Emily broke the silence first. "Good night, Daniel." "Good night, Emily." She turned, took a step, then stopped. Her hand tightened slightly at her side, like she wanted to say something else, but didn't. And then she walked away. Daniel stood there for a moment, watching her go, not fully understanding why, but knowing one thing for sure. This wasn't just about helping a neighbor anymore. This was something else, something deeper, something that was slowly, quietly, becoming impossible to ignore. Have you ever felt your heart race for something as simple as a question? Not a big moment, not a dramatic confession, just one sentence. "Would you like to go out with me?" That's where everything changed for Daniel and Emily. It had been a few days since that quiet, meaningful night at the door. Nothing official had been said. No labels, no expectations, but something was there. Something both of them could feel. Even in silence, Daniel stood in his living room, checking his watch again. Then again, and again. He exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "This is ridiculous," he muttered. He wasn't a teenager. He wasn't new to life, but somehow, this felt different. This felt important. Lily sat on the couch, watching him with a small grin. "Daddy." Daniel stopped pacing. "Yeah? You're nervous." He raised an eyebrow. "I'm not nervous." She tilted her head. "You changed your shirt 3 times. Daniel paused. "Okay, maybe a little." Lily giggled. "I like her." That caught him off guard. "You do?" She nodded confidently. She smiles a lot. And she listens. Daniel softened. Yeah, she does. There was a small pause. Then Lily added, don't mess it up. Daniel laughed under his breath. I'll try my best. That evening, Daniel stood outside Emily's door, and for a moment, he just stood there, because asking someone out after years of being alone, it's not simple. It's not easy. It feels like stepping into something unknown, but then he knocked, the door opened, and there she was, Emily, wearing something simple, but effortlessly beautiful, her hair softly falling around her shoulders, her eyes lighting up the moment she saw him. Hey, she said. Hey. For a second, neither of them spoke. Then Daniel cleared his throat slightly. So, I was thinking. Emily raised an eyebrow playfully. That's always dangerous. He smiled. Yeah. Well, I was thinking maybe we could go out tonight. There it was. The question. Simple. But heavy. Emily didn't answer right away. Not because she didn't want to, but because she felt it too. That shift. That step forward. Finally, she smiled. I'd like that. And just like that it began. The place wasn't fancy. Just a small, cozy cafe. Soft lights. Quiet music. The kind of place where conversations matter more than everything else. They sat across from each other. At first, there was a little awkwardness. Not uncomfortable, just real. Because this wasn't just dinner. This was something new. So, Emily said, wrapping her fingers around her cup, is this your first date in a while? Daniel let out a small laugh. That obvious? A little. He shook his head. Yeah, it's been years. She nodded slowly. Same. That surprised him. Really? Emily looked down for a moment, then back up. Yeah, I've met people, but nothing ever felt right. There was honesty in her voice. The kind that doesn't try to impress, just tells the truth. Daniel leaned back slightly. I get that. She looked at him. You do. He nodded. After my wife passed, I just stopped looking. Emily's expression softened. Because it hurt too much? He thought for a moment. Because nothing felt real anymore. That hit deeper than either of them expected. The conversation slowed. Not because it was ending, but because it was becoming something more. Something meaningful. As the evening went on, the awkwardness faded, replaced by laughter. Stories. Little moments of connection. Emily told him about her past, how she moved from place to place, how she never really stayed anywhere long enough to feel at home. I guess I just never found a reason to stay, she said quietly. Daniel looked at her, and now, she hesitated, then smiled softly. I don't know. Maybe I'm starting to. Their eyes met, and this time neither of them looked away. After dinner, they stepped outside. The night air was cool. The streets were quiet, streetlights casting a soft golden glow around them. They started walking, side by side. Not too close, not too far. Just enough space for something to happen, and then it did. Their hands brushed, lightly, accidentally, but neither of them pulled away immediately. Instead, there was a pause, a moment where both of them felt it. That spark, that hesitation between should we and what if. Emily's fingers moved slightly, barely noticeable, but enough, and Daniel noticed. Slowly, carefully, he let his hand move closer until their fingers touched again, this time on purpose. And then they intertwined, gently, naturally, like it was always meant to happen. And no rush, and no pressure. Just connection. Emily let out a soft breath. Not even realizing she was holding it, Daniel glanced at her. You okay? She smiled. Yeah, She looked down at their hands, then back at him. I forgot what this feels like. His voice was quiet. Me too. And in that moment, nothing else mattered. Not the past, not the fears. Just This, they walked like that for a while, talking, laughing, but now everything felt different, closer, warmer, more real. Eventually, they reached her door, and suddenly, that same feeling returned, the one where neither of them wanted the moment to end. Well, Daniel said softly. Yeah, Emily replied. Silence, but not empty. Full, heavy, real. Tonight was nice, she said. It was more than nice. She smiled. Yeah, it was. Another pause. Another moment. Where both of them were thinking the same thing but neither saying it. So, Emily did something small, but meaningful. She stepped closer. Not too close. Just enough. Then leaned in and kissed his cheek. Soft, gentle, but full of emotion. Daniel froze for just a second. Not because he didn't want it, but because he felt it deeper than he expected. When she pulled away, she looked at him, a little nervous, a little hopeful. Good night, Daniel. He smiled. Good night, Emily. She turned, walked inside, and closed the door. Daniel stood there for a moment, touching his cheek slightly, still feeling it. That one small kiss. But somehow, it meant everything, because it wasn't just a good night. It was a beginning. If you felt that moment, you know it's getting real now. Hit like if that hand touch gave you butterflies. Comment. Was that kiss just a start? Or something deeper? And don't forget to subscribe because chapter 4 is where emotions get even stronger. What happens when something starts to feel real? Not just exciting, not just new, but real. The kind of real that makes you smile and at the same time scares you, because now you have something to lose. After that night, after the soft kiss on the cheek, after the moment their hands found each other, things between Daniel and Emily changed, not dramatically, not all at once, but in small, quiet ways that slowly became everything. It started with simple things. Emily coming over more often, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Sometimes she'd bring food, sometimes just herself, and somehow that was enough. One evening, the three of them sat together in the living room. A movie played on the screen, but honestly no one was really watching it. Lily sat between them, laughing at something only she fully understood. Emily leaned back into the couch, relaxed, comfortable, like she belonged there. And Daniel noticed it. Not just how she looked, but how it felt. The space didn't feel empty anymore. Emily, look, Lily said excitedly, holding up a drawing. Emily leaned closer immediately. What is it? It's us, Lily said proudly. Daniel glanced over. 3 stick figures, holding hands, one smaller in the middle. Emily's smile softened. It's beautiful. Lily pointed at each one. That's me. That's Daddy. And that's you. There was a small pause. Just a second. But it meant something. Emily looked at Daniel. He looked back. Neither said anything, but both understood that this wasn't just casual anymore. Later that night, after Lily had fallen asleep, the house became quiet again, that same quiet, but it felt different now. Warmer. Full. Emily stood by the window, looking outside, city lights flickering in the distance. Daniel walked up beside her. For a moment, neither spoke. They didn't need to. Do you ever think about how fast things can change? Emily asked softly. Daniel leaned slightly against the wall. All the time. She nodded slowly. One day you're alone. And then suddenly, she didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Daniel understood. Suddenly, you're not, he said quietly. She looked at him. There was something in her eyes. Something deeper than before. Not just warmth, not just affection. Something closer to vulnerability. I'm scared, she admitted. The words came out softly, but they carried weight. Daniel didn't react right away. He didn't brush it off, didn't interrupt. He just listened. Of what? He asked gently. Emily took a small breath. This. She gestured between them. Us. That word hung in the air. Heavy. Real. Daniel stepped a little closer. Why? She hesitated, then finally said because it feels good. He frowned slightly. That's a bad thing. She shook her head. No, it's just. Her voice softened even more. The last time something felt this good, it didn't last. There it was. The truth. The fear behind the feeling. Daniel looked at her carefully. Not judging. Not fixing. Just understanding. I'm not them, he said quietly. Emily looked up at him. You don't know that. I do. He replied. His voice wasn't loud, but it was steady, certain, because I'm not here to leave. That hit something inside her, something she didn't expect. She searched his eyes, like she was trying to decide whether to believe him or protect herself. Daniel, she whispered, what if this goes wrong? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached for her hand, slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted, but she didn't. Her fingers stayed, and then gently held his. If it goes wrong, he said softly, at least we didn't run away from something that felt right. Silence. But not empty. Full of emotion. Full of truth. Emily's eyes glistened slightly, not quite tears, but close. You make it sound so simple. Daniel gave a small smile. It's not simple. He paused. It's just worth it. That moment changed something. Not everything, but enough. Enough for her to stop stepping back and start leaning in. They moved to the couch, sat closer than before, not by accident, but by choice. Emily leaned her head gently against his shoulder, slowly, like she was testing the moment. Daniel didn't move, didn't tense. He just stayed, letting her be there, letting her feel safe. His arm lifted slightly, then rested around her, carefully, naturally, like it belonged there. Emily closed her eyes for a second, taking it in. That feeling. The warmth. The calm. I forgot what this feels like, she whispered. Daniel looked down at her. Me, too. Minutes passed. Or maybe longer. Time didn't really matter anymore. Because, for the first time in a long time, neither of them felt alone. From the hallway, a small voice echoed sleepily, Daddy? They both turned. Lily stood there, rubbing her eyes again. Daniel smiled softly. Hey, sweetheart. Couldn't sleep? She walked over slowly, then looked at Emily. Are you staying? Emily hesitated, just for a second, then looked at Daniel. He didn't say anything, but his expression said enough. She smiled gently. If that's okay with your dad. Lily didn't even wait. She climbed onto the couch and hugged both of them. Good. I like this. Daniel laughed quietly. Emily smiled. And in that small, simple moment, something clicked. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But deeply. This wasn't just connection anymore. It wasn't just attraction. It was becoming something else. Something stronger. Something that felt like home. Later that night, after Lily was back asleep again, Emily stood near the door, getting ready to leave. But not rushing. Not wanting to. Today felt different, she said softly. Daniel nodded. Yeah, it did. She looked at him, her eyes searching again, but this time less fear, more trust. I don't want to run away from this, she admitted. Daniel stepped closer. Then, don't. A small smile appeared on her lips. Okay. She paused, then added, but you don't get to disappear either. Daniel smiled. Deal. There it was. Not a promise. Not a perfect guarantee. But something real. Two people choosing to stay, even with fear, even with uncertainty, and sometimes that's how love really begins. Not with perfection, but with courage. What if the thing you were afraid to lose becomes the very thing that saves you? Not fixes you, not completes you, but gives you a place to finally rest, a place that feels like home. For Daniel, it didn't happen all at once. There was no big dramatic moment, no sudden realization. Just a series of small, quiet changes that slowly turned into something undeniable. Emily wasn't just the neighbor anymore. She wasn't just someone he helped. She had become a part of their daily life. Morning, coffee, evening conversations, laughter in the kitchen, and little moments that didn't seem important but meant everything. One afternoon, Daniel walked into the living room and stopped. Emily and Lily were sitting on the floor, surrounded by crayons, paper, and imagination. Emily was laughing, really laughing, as Lily tried to explain her drawing. No, Lily insisted. This is you, but with superhero powers. Emily raised an eyebrow playfully. Oh, really? What kind of powers? Lily thought for a second. You make people feel better. Emily froze. Just for a moment, then slowly smiled. That's a pretty good power. Daniel stood there quietly, watching them. Something in his chest tightened. Not in pain, but in emotion, because this was something he hadn't seen in a long time. Not since. Before everything changed, later that evening, after dinner, the house was calm, peaceful. Lily had fallen asleep on the couch, her small body curled up under a blanket. Emily gently adjusted it around her, careful not to wake her. Daniel watched from a distance, and for a moment, he didn't say anything, because sometimes you don't want to interrupt something beautiful. She's growing up so fast, Emily whispered. Daniel nodded. Yeah, too fast. There was a softness in his voice, but also a hint of something deeper, fear. Emily noticed. You're scared, she said quietly. Daniel didn't deny it. I've already lost too much. The words came out heavier than he expected. Emily turned to face him fully. You're not going to lose this. Daniel looked at her. How do you know? She stepped closer. Not rushed, not dramatic. Just certain, because I'm not going anywhere. Silence, but not empty. Full. Real. Daniel studied her face, looking for hesitation, doubt, anything that might tell him she wasn't sure, but he didn't find it. All he saw was truth. Emily, he said softly, this, what we have. He paused, because sometimes the right words are hard to find. It's not small. She smiled gently. I know. It's not easy either. I know that too. He took a breath. And it scares me. Emily nodded. It scares me too. Another pause. Then she added, but I think that's how you know it matters. That hit deeper than anything else. Because she wasn't pretending it was perfect. She wasn't ignoring the fear. She was choosing it anyway. And that's when Daniel realized something. This wasn't just about moving on. This wasn't just about healing. This was about choosing love again. Even after loss, even after pain. They stood there, close now, closer than before. No distance left between them. Emily looked up at him, her eyes soft, but steady. So, what are we? She asked. The question wasn't rushed. It wasn't demanding. It was honest. Daniel didn't hesitate. Not this time. We're something real. Emily's expression changed. Not surprise. Not confusion. Just emotion. The kind that builds quietly, and then suddenly becomes overwhelming. I've never had something like this, she admitted. Daniel smiled softly. Me neither. There was a moment, a long one, where everything slowed down. The world outside didn't matter. Time didn't matter. Nothing did. Except this. And then Emily stepped forward, closing the small space between them. Her arms wrapped around him, tightly. Not gently, not carefully, but fully, like she meant it. like she needed it. Daniel froze for just a second, not because he didn't want it, but because of how much it meant. Then slowly, he wrapped his arms around her too, holding her just as tight. It wasn't just a hug. It wasn't casual. It wasn't light. It was everything they hadn't said, everything they had been holding back. All the fear, all the hope, all the love that had been building finally finding its way out. Emily closed her eyes, resting her head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Strong, steady, real. I feel safe, she whispered. Daniel tightened his arms slightly. You are. And in that moment, they weren't two broken people anymore. They weren't two strangers trying to figure things out. They were something whole, something real, something that felt like it could last. From the couch, a small voice suddenly broke the silence. Hey, no hugging without me. They both laughed softly. Lily stood there, half asleep, rubbing her eyes again. Emily pulled back slightly, smiling. Come here. Lily didn't hesitate. She walked straight into them, wrapping her small arms around both of them. And just like that, it became something more. Not just a couple, not just a connection, but a family. Daniel looked down at them. Lily. Emily. And for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel like something was missing. He didn't feel like he was just surviving. He felt complete, because sometimes life doesn't give you a second chance in a big, obvious way. Sometimes it sends you a moment, a voice, a cry for help in the middle of the night, and if you choose to answer it, it might just lead you to something you never expected. Emily looked up at him again, smiling softly. Best accident ever. Daniel smiled back. Definitely. And that's how it happened. Not perfectly, not easily, but beautifully. A single dad, a broken moment, a simple act of kindness turned into love, turned into trust, turned into a family. And sometimes, that's all it takes. If this story touched your heart, don't just scroll away. Hit like if you believe love can come when you least expect it. Comment, did this ending make you emotional? And don't forget to subscribe for more deep, real, and emotional love stories.